And here it is, the report for November 2022 for TCGplayer. This was my second month of selling cards. The difference from the first month to the second month was very significant, where this one I ended up having over $250 worth of sales, where my first month was only $30. What I kind of attribute this to is because I did kind of pivot halfway through the month away from universes and away from Pokemon and more into Magic and Yu-Gi-Oh! Magic and Yu-Gi-Oh! I kind of understood the meta much more, and it was much more diverse than the Pokemon meta was. I was surprised with how many cards I actually had in my Magic and Yu-Gi-Oh! Collection that were worth money on the secondary market here on TCGplayer. A lot of the stuff that I had for Magic was a lot of the older sets, and then for Yu-Gi-Oh! It was specifically Speed Duel. That was the only stuff that I had. I had stopped taking in My Hero Academia or Universes cards, and kept taking in more Pokemon, but now I was adding the other two games to it as well. This was also where I started taking notice that for Magic and Yu-Gi-Oh! Specifically, those you didn't need to have 4 copies of a card, whereas Pokemon and Universes or MHA specifically, you needed to have 4 copies or a playset of like 3 or 4 that people would want to be buying those off of you. So you didn't need the multiples because Yu-Gi-Oh! Some of those decks do run only one of a specific card, and then Magic has the Commander or EDH format, which you only need 1 card. Getting into the lessons for this also, this is where I definitely saw a need for a system of not just organization, but also of supplies as well. The organization came where I used to have everything stored into one ETB with a couple of deck boxes in there, and that started to expand beyond that point where now I was going to need bigger boxes with dividers. On top of that too, I also needed a supply of envelopes, needed a supply of penny sleeves and stamps, everything else that kind of went with the packing and shipping of cards. This is where I took note from multiple YouTubers on how they had packed up their orders and the supplies that they used for when they sent out orders to either both Amazon, eBay, and as well as TCGplayer. Shout out to the Lab TCG, shout out to RNG Games. In the future here, I will definitely have to show what my method is when it comes to packing an order, as you'll see how much it was a variety of pieces from all those influencers. This was also where I started to kind of get the word out there to let people know that I was interested in selling Pokemon Magic and Yu-Gi-Oh!, which in turn also meant that I was going to be purchasing collections as well. In November, my actual buying of sealed product was also really low, as I wasn't sure how deep I was going to be jumping into it. Coming into the December, I'm going to talk about how I kind of changed that quite a bit too. In October, I wasn't getting consistent sales. They were mostly happening over the weekend, and I thought this was kind of from the players who would be getting together on the weekends, Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, and then playing and then knowing what they need to tweak their deck. Well, when I moved into November here, this is when I was starting to get sales either every other day or every day at a consistent rate. With this, I started to develop a method where I had scheduled every morning to really go ahead and grab the orders, print them out, pack them, and then get them shipped out after I had dropped my son off at school. It was just a really easy method and a pretty good and consistent way. At this point also, I was not communicating to the customers. This was the month where I ended up having my first return on here, or my first one where someone had said that they didn't get the card. So with that, I did go ahead and ask for a couple more days to see if it was going to be received or not. After they had reported back that it wasn't, I was able to issue the refund on that. After that happened, I do have a message now that I send after I drop the orders off at the post office. It is just a text saying, thank you for your order, that this order has been packed up and has been shipped out. just so that it lets the customer know. I know that there are some sellers on TCGplayer which either as soon as the order is received or within like a certain time limit that they do send that this was shipped, but then I won't get a shipping notification for a few more days or a tracking number, and it just says it is still waiting for it to be shipped off or dropped off. So I definitely didn't want to do that, and I wanted to be very consistent with my message and just say thank you for your order, as well as letting them know the date that it did ship out. Looking at the first 2 months on TCGplayer and the success that I had with it, I was really happy with how the progress was going. I know that those were the first few steps that I needed to take, and that there was more steps that I would have to go through, and I'll be able to report back in December, or for the December month, and as well as for January, which that's the time that I'm recording this, is in the middle of January, and I did take a couple of steps which I definitely do want to report on. I did end up in November on level 3 as a seller there, so that was another exciting point too. Level 3 was definitely an achievement, as well as having a list for the packing supplies and starting to get more organized with all the cards that I had. So thank you again for listening, and as always, like and subscribe. I look forward to giving you the update on December and January and going forward. Thank you, and have a great day.